advice we put out on this channel is that freehold is better than leasehold. But does the new Leasehold Reform Bill make buy-to-let flats a better investment? Now, taking us through this discussion is John and Ranjan.
Hi there.
Feeling good today?
Feeling good.
Very good.
Leasehold, freehold, still in the same.
Well, this is an interesting whole debate, because I think basically what's happened is that if you want to invest for buy-to-let in higher value areas, an entry-level property is typically a flat. That's the way it is. In the M25 now, it's quite difficult to get any freeholds in the M25 houses for less than 500k. So flats are the entry point. So the problem is that if you buy a flat, then you've got the service charges. What exactly is your profit? If you buy a freehold property and maintain it, you'll always make more profit margin than a leasehold flat, because someone else is charging you an unspecified amount which can increase every year, and that can cause problems. And you also have this thing called Section 20 works, where freeholders all of a sudden decide the roof needs replacing, and the roof will cost you 3 times more if they organise it than if you are organising the same roof on your property. And then you end up having to pay those bills. So leasehold flats can be very, very expensive and very unpredictable cash flow if you are building up a portfolio of them as buy-to-let under the old rules.
I resent some of the comments you just made,
Go on, then.
Ranjan.
I'm on the same side of the fence as you as well.
As a freeholder of quite large, a number of quite large blocks as well as smaller blocks, you know, if someone owns their own house, it will need redecorating externally. The roof will need repairing at some point, or replacing, guttering. Yeah. Windows will need painting. The windows will need repairing probably. Front door repairing. A lot of these service charges are around between £2,000 and £3,000. That isn't a lot of money. Includes the insurance as well. You try and insure your own house. See what it costs you.
Yeah,
so I think we're being a little bit unfair on the freeholders who have less and less reason to own them under the new Act, and far less reason. And I accept the fact that leaseholders have far more reason to purchase, but it isn't really a fact of the service charge. In my view, it's because of the marriage value of the lease, bringing it back up to, putting it up to 990 years at £0 ground rent from where it is now, which could be 80 years or less. And if you're buying these blocks on short leases, that could be a very, very good strategy. Is that the right word you use, you educators? Strategy, because you know, you're taking a bit of a view on that at the moment, because we don't know what the new mathematical calculation will be yet. Although the Act is now law, they haven't worked that bit out. When it is worked out, there'll be a lot of people making a lot of money out of short lease flats.
No, I agree. That's a fantastic strategy, and I think in the interim, it's going to be an interesting game, because all those people that need to sell, and the people that can't wait. But a lot of people will be wanting to wait and see.
Yes.
And they will be investors, eagle-eyed investors rather than vultures, I'd say.
Thank you, Ranjan.
Who'd be looking to take a call, looking to take a punt. And I think what they will be playing on is that it's going to be a lot worse. In other words, there's going to be no marriage value whatsoever. Whereas they'll be taking a punt on there being a little bit of it. And all that uncertainty allows you to buy stuff from motivated sellers who can't wait straight away.
And what do you think about service charges and management fees in the future with leasehold flats and properties?
Well, they're very well now, especially under this new Act, they're incredibly well controlled. You know, you've had the opportunity as a leaseholder to purchase the freehold for many years. And you've also had the opportunity to get someone to manage it on your behalf, away from the freeholder if you wish to. So a lot of these rules, I'm not sure. I think we spoke in a different on a different show, didn't we, a while ago? But you know, a lot of these changes, I don't think they needed any more change. I think the one thing that is very, very serious for some of the big landlords, the big freeholders, especially in these mansion blocks in London where, you know, flats are worth millions of pounds and there's 20 years left on the lease. And they're hoping to get $1 million or $2 million out of the current lessee to extend the lease. That could be cut down to $500,000, 200. We don't know. 200 might be nothing.
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem right to me. And I think there'll be some legal challenges if that happens. I
think the fact that the ticking time bomb of leases expiring has basically been solved now. That's a good thing. I think, John, you're probably a very, very generous freeholder, but there has been a lot of freeholder abuse, particularly
in the past, not so much now.
Well, particularly in insurance, buildings insurance, and taking commissions.
Yes,
off
but that's
brokers.
all stopped.
That's stopped now.
Yeah.
Because in reality, if you are a freeholder of a number of properties, the insurance rates we get are much cheaper.
Yeah.
What you'd find is that most freeholders of these leasehold properties, they've got other freeholds as well, but they tend to charge insurance premiums to the leaseholders, which is more than what they can get by picking up the phone.
We haven't done
so that money has to be going somewhere.
We haven't done that for years, Ranjan. Not for years. It's not allowed anymore, sadly. We haven't done it for years.
But I think there's going to be far greater transparency. I think if you're looking at buying a buy-to-let flat now, you've got far more transparency and far more certainty about your cost. It's still not as good as freehold and still not as good as share of the freehold, but it's certainly much better than it was.
And I think we have to remember where all this really started for many, many investors. In 2000 onwards, these large blocks went up, especially, I'm talking really around London more than anywhere else, to be fair. Large blocks went up and they were sold off plan to buy-to-let investors, weren't they? And that's where all this has come from, all this issue and high service charges and whether or not they're a good investment or not. And if you're buying one of these, you have to be realistic and say, right, what is the service charge? What's my rent I can get? How much is the gross rent I can get? What are the service charges? And also, is there a sinking fund? And a sinking fund is all about each year there should be a sinking fund, money put into a sinking fund in order for large repairs, large costs. Sometimes it was done, sometimes it wasn't done, sometimes there wasn't enough to do it. And it's very important that you also get a forecast from the management company of what is going to be over the next 5 years. Does the building need decorating? Are there fireworks to do, for instance, that aren't going to be covered by the cladding grant that's available? All these types of things. And you need to analyse it. And if after all costs you're getting a 3% return, then I would suggest probably, unless you're buying a short lease, because if you're buying a short lease, the upside could be very big.
Yes, absolutely.
You've taken a view. But if you said potentially that whatever the marriage value would be now, when the new rules come out, potentially it could be half that.
Yeah.
But when?
So
is the question. How long are you going to wait? And can you finance it? Because don't forget, if it's less than 80 years, it can be very difficult to finance.
It can, for mortgages.
Very difficult.
Yeah. So what we're saying here is that it is a good investment if you wanted to get a flat with a leasehold, but to check before buying all of the next few years with management companies. But what if they don't know? What if they don't know themselves?
If they don't know, if it's badly managed, I would be very cautious about buying.
So do your research first and make sure you get those answers.
The most exciting thing about this is if you can buy a flat on a short lease. Okay. That's the angle. That's where the money, or a flat that needs totally refurbishing because it's old and needs refurbishing. But if you're doing that, remember, you must get permission of the freeholder to do the work prior to purchasing it. Otherwise, you could get blackmailed.
You're right.
So no, we're not giving you permission, or we've had them where people have done the work to the flat, gone to sell it, the new buyer says, well, have you had permission off the freeholder? And they go, well, we don't need it yet. Well, you do according to the lease. They come to us and say, oh, hi, John, are you all right? Yeah, nice day, isn't it? I say, yeah, it's a lovely day. What can I help you? How can I help you? Well, would you just like confirming that you're happy that we've done all this work to the flat? No, I wouldn't. And if you want me to, I'm happy to write a letter once I've checked it, but it will cost you a few £1,000s.
That's right. And also there are some mortgage companies as well that despite there is a low lease,
Yes.
you might have just literally a handful of mortgage companies that will lend to you.
Yes.
But their fees are huge.
Huge.
So,
You've got to be very, very careful with those.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's got less than 80 years, between 80 and 60 years as an investment, you might get someone to do it. 50 years less is a big problem. You know, we love buying them with 20, 30 years to go. That's what we love to do, if we can, because then we know, hopefully, they're cash purchase and you should be making some big money out of it once you can extend the lease.
Once you extend the lease.
Yeah. In the
Great
meantime,
advice,
you can rent it out, of course.
Yeah.
Cover your costs.
There's a good old elephant in the room here that no one's talking about, which is, and it's the same with all the current leasehold enfranchisement legislation. Guess who's exempt?
Oh.
Local authorities.
Local authorities and
Housing
associations.
Yeah.
So now,
Got that right, didn't I?
yeah, I mean,
You don't sound so surprised.
No, I knew you'd know. I mean,
thank
just
you.
a question for you, the viewers out there.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you know, what's going on? Well, you know, if you take some of the, and I guess this is very high value areas where councils had a lot of flats. But if typically someone dared to approach their socialist council when Margaret Thatcher introduced the right to buy, and they decided they wanted to take ownership of their own flat, and they bought it. And then at some point in the future, they've sold it to a buy-to-let investor, because council flats actually make good buy-to-let investments.
Not good size.
They're good size.
Same with the houses.
Well-built
good
as well.
locations, well built, and all of that. So they've bought them. But then the left-wing councils don't like that. You dared to own one of our houses. You had it on a right to buy. And they are the worst people for slapping you with Section 20 notices, with works that seem, you know, because remember, the government are very good at spending, you know, £100 to get a light bulb changed. They're very good at paying more than a job's worth. And all the bills are exceptionally expensive, and there's not diddly squat you can actually do about it when you've got a lease with a local authority, particularly a socialist London council.
Yeah, very interesting.
And anyone has
very
any good experience of those people, then let me know in the comments below. I would love to.
Ranjan, you make a very good point there, because they don't come under the same rules as the private freeholder. Very good point.
And when they don't come under the rules, we've discussed this on other shows, particularly with housing standards, they don't follow the rules because they're not governed by them.
You can't get, they're so slow at doing everything. You know, if you're looking to sell, you know, buying and selling it or something like that, be careful, because they take so long to do everything. You could be, you know, they could strangle you for years before you can sell it. Yeah.
So the listeners and viewers shouldn't be wary of a leasehold property in the future.
I think it's got better. I think it's certainly got better. What we were talking about was buy to let, and I think the short lease strategy is particularly good for selling on. So you'd buy a leasehold property on a short lease, do it up a little bit, because usually it's a bit tatty, get the lease extended, and then sell it on. But I still...
And you haven't got to wait 2 years anymore.
You haven't got to wait 2 years, yes. But there were ways around that before, but you haven't got to wait. It's messy. But I think if you're a buy-to-let investor, I'd still prefer share the freehold, or make your own blocks of flats by doing residential conversions, mixed-use properties, that kind of thing. Buying a leasehold in someone else's block is better than it was for buy-to-let, but not as good as it could be.
Yeah.
I think what we're really saying, you always need an angle in property. You know, what is the angle? Does it need doing up to sell it for more money? You know, there has to be an angle just to buy a bog standard flat in a bog standard block as an investment. Once you've taken all the service charge costs, everything else, management costs out of it all, what's the net rent? What's the net? Not the gross. Oh, I'm making 8%. Well, no, you're not. What's the net?
The actual net.
And if the net is 2-3%, unless you think there's going to be a lot of capital growth in the next few years, which I don't think there will be, what is the point of buying it?
There we go. That's great advice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for watching this video here on Property Answers. Like, subscribe, and also click that bell, because more videos will be coming your way very soon. Property Answers.